The Galactic Empire's representatives arrived on Earth with all the pomp and arrogance one would expect of a civilization that had ruled the stars for millennia. Their gleaming ships cast long shadows over the human delegation gathered below, their polished hulls a stark contrast to the rugged, utilitarian vehicles Earth had assembled for the occasion. This was not a meeting of equals, it was an inspection. To the Empire, humanity was a backwater species, tolerated only because Earth sat on the fringes of a strategically valuable sector. In the conference chamber, the atmosphere was tense. Humans, proud but cautious, sat across from aliens who exuded superiority. The Galactic General, clad in an ornate uniform bristling with medals, addressed the room with barely concealed disdain. "Your world," he began, his voice dripping with condescension, "has been allowed to exist within the Empire's domain. Yet, your continued reliance on primitive technology is curious." He gestured to a holographic display showcasing humanity's historic weaponry, tanks, rifles, and, most prominently, a heavy machine gun mounted on a tripod. The aliens chuckled, their shimmering, metallic voices reverberating. "These relics," the general continued, "are quaint, but hardly worthy of the term weapons. In the Empire, we have long abandoned such crude designs. Energy-based weaponry has rendered these trinkets obsolete." A human officer leaned forward, his uniform crisp and his expression calm. "With all due respect, General, these weapons served their purpose well. They are a testament to our history, ingenuity, and resourcefulness." "Resourcefulness," the general laughed, a hollow, mocking sound. "You celebrate tools that require physical projectiles, tools that are limited by ammunition and mechanics. Our plasma rifles alone could disintegrate any such device before it even—" The officer interrupted, his tone firm but respectful. "Perhaps a demonstration is in order." The room fell silent. The humans exchanged glances, while the aliens looked bemused. The general raised a hairless eyebrow, his silvery skin reflecting the dim light. "You wish to demonstrate your ancient toys?" "Yes," the officer replied, his gaze steady. "We believe actions speak louder than words. And you may find value in understanding the strengths of what you dismiss as primitive." The general smirked, clearly entertained by the proposition. "Very well. Humor us." The human delegation quickly arranged for the demonstration. Engineers and technicians prepared the heavy machine gun, carefully positioning it in a controlled testing area. The weapon was an imposing sight, its dark steel glinting under the lights, its barrel long and cold, a stark reminder of its lethal potential. The aliens stood at a safe distance, watching with a mixture of amusement and boredom. Their advanced optics scanned the weapon, identifying its components with ease. "It's powered by combustion," one alien observed. "So inefficient," another alien snickered. "It's like watching a child attempt to build a starship with sticks and stones." The human officer ignored the taunts. His focus was on the task at hand, his demeanor unshaken. The heavy machine gun, though outdated by human standards, represented more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of resilience, a relic of a time when humanity had faced insurmountable odds and prevailed. As the final preparations were made, the officer turned to the general. "General, you mock what you don't understand. I suggest you reserve judgment until you see the results." The general waved a dismissive hand, his expression one of mild amusement. "Proceed. Let us witness the power of your primitive artifacts." The humans exchanged a final nod, their faces resolute. This was more than a demonstration, it was a statement. The demonstration began with the humans carefully explaining the setup to the alien observers. A target was placed several hundred meters away, an armored plate reinforced with the strongest alloy available to humanity during the weapons era. It wasn't cutting-edge by galactic standards, but it was more than enough to showcase the power of the heavy machine gun. The Galactic General yawned, feigning disinterest. "We have shields that can absorb solar flares. Your demonstration is unnecessary. Nothing from this primitive device could so much as dent our defenses." The human operator remained focused, his hands steady as he double-checked the weapon. The machine gun's rugged design had stood the test of time, and its mechanism was as reliable now as it had been in the wars of old. Ammunition belts were loaded with precision, each round a promise of kinetic force that would soon silence the smirks of their alien guests. Firing in 3, 2, 1, the operator announced calmly. The first burst of fire erupted from the weapon, the staccato roar of the gun breaking the air like thunder. The vibrations traveled through the ground, a visceral reminder of its raw, mechanical power. The bullets streaked toward the target, tearing through the air with a shrill whine before slamming into the armored plate. Sparks flew on impact, and the plate rattled violently under the assault. The aliens flinched, startled by the sheer volume and force of the weapon. It was nothing like the silent precision of their energy-based rifles. This was primal, ferocious, and undeniably effective. The target was visibly damaged, dented and scratched from the barrage. Impressive sound, one alien muttered, attempting to recover from the initial shock. But it's all spectacle. Your weapon would be useless against energy shields. The human officer nodded. Perhaps, but let's test that assumption. Bring out one of your portable shields. The general hesitated, glancing at his aides. After a moment, he waved for one of them to comply. A small device was activated and placed in front of the target. A shimmering, translucent barrier appeared, humming softly with energy. It was an unassuming but formidable defense, capable of repelling most projectile-based attacks. This shield, the general began, his voice dripping with smug confidence, is capable of withstanding continuous plasma bombardment. Your mechanical toy stands no chance. The human operator adjusted the gun, aligning it with the shield. His expression remained unreadable, but his determination was evident. We'll see, he replied simply. The gun roared to life again, sending a relentless stream of bullets toward the shield. The aliens watched with growing curiosity as the shield absorbed the initial impacts. The rounds disintegrated on contact, creating flashes of light that momentarily masked the shield's surface. But then, something unexpected happened. The shield began to flicker. The constant barrage of kinetic force taxed its energy source in ways it wasn't designed to handle. Cracks of instability appeared in the shimmering barrier, and the hum of the device grew uneven. Impossible, one alien whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of gunfire. The general's expression shifted from amusement to concern as the shield collapsed in a burst of light, leaving the target exposed. The bullets slammed into the armored plate once more, this time ripping through it with ease. A final, deafening shot echoed as the demonstration concluded, leaving the once pristine plate riddled with holes. The silence that followed was deafening. The humans stood tall, their gazes steady as the aliens struggled to process what they had just witnessed. The aftermath of the shield's collapse left the alien delegation stunned. Their advanced optics flickered as they reanalyzed the scene, scanning for any irregularities or hidden technology that might explain what had just occurred. There were none. The heavy machine gun had done exactly what it was designed to do: deliver relentless kinetic force with devastating precision. This is unacceptable, one of the alien scientists stammered, his voice laced with disbelief. Your weapon bypassed our energy shield. It shouldn't be possible. The shield absorbs and disperses energy. Yet, it wasn't energy it had to contend with, the human officer interrupted, his tone calm but firm. Your shield may be designed for plasma, lasers, and radiation, but this is raw physical impact. Kinetic force doesn't just disperse. It delivers. The Galactic general's smug demeanor had vanished, replaced by a cold, analytical stare. He gestured for one of his aides to step forward. The alien technician began running scans of the now-disabled shield generator, frantically tapping at a holographic console. The kinetic impact overwhelmed the energy absorption matrix, the technician reported. Sustained pressure caused an overload. The general turned toward the humans, his silver eyes narrowing. An exploit, then. A weakness in our shield's design that you've stumbled upon. No, the human officer replied. Not a stumble. A demonstration of principles you've ignored. While you've advanced in energy manipulation, you've forgotten the fundamentals of warfare. Simplicity often trumps complexity when applied correctly. The general's lips pressed into a thin line, his pride clearly wounded. He glanced at the weapon, now silent but no less menacing, and then at the human operator who stood confidently beside it. "And what of your other weapons?" he asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. "If this outdated tool can achieve this, what else do you have hidden away?" The officer met his gaze without flinching. "We're not here to flaunt or threaten. We're here to remind you that underestimating us, underestimating humanity, is a mistake." One of the younger aliens, a lieutenant by his insignia, stepped forward hesitantly. "But this weapon is ancient. Why would you cling to such relics when the galaxy has moved on to superior technologies?" "Because sometimes old solutions are the most effective," the officer explained. The heavy machine gun was designed to solve a specific problem, to deliver sustained firepower in a reliable, efficient package. It doesn't rely on advanced energy grids or delicate circuitry. It's simple, durable, and adaptable. And as you just saw, even your shields weren't prepared for it. The general's gaze lingered on the weapon, his mind racing. It was clear that his perception of humanity had shifted. What other so-called primitive technologies did they have in their arsenal? What else had they quietly perfected while the rest of the galaxy pursued technological elegance over practicality? Without a word, the general turned and began walking away, his aides scrambling to follow. The humans exchanged glances but said nothing. They had made their point. Humanity's strength lay not in its ability to mimic the galaxy's advances but in its capacity to think differently, to adapt, and to exploit weaknesses no one else even considered. The delegation's departure from the testing site was marked by an unusual silence. The Galactic General, once so quick to mock and condescend, now seemed deep in thought, his expression unreadable. His aides exchanged nervous glances, their confidence shaken by what they had witnessed. For the first time, they found themselves uncertain about humanity, not because of their technology, but because of their unpredictability. As the humans packed away the machine gun, the officer turned to the lead engineer, a faint smile breaking his stern demeanor. "Good work," he said simply. The engineer nodded, though he knew it was more than just technical expertise that had led to this moment. It was humanity's ability to think laterally, to approach challenges in ways the rest of the galaxy seemed to have forgotten. Back at the makeshift conference hall, the tension lingered. The general addressed his aides in hushed tones, clearly strategizing, before turning back to the humans. "You've given us much to consider," he said, his voice measured but lacking the arrogance it once held. "Perhaps we've underestimated the value of your unique perspective." The human officer folded his arms. "Humanity has always thrived by finding unconventional solutions. We've had to. For centuries, we faced challenges far greater than ourselves. We learned to adapt, to innovate, and to endure. You see this weapon as primitive, but it represents a mindset, a willingness to survive by any means necessary." The general studied the officer, his gaze hard but contemplative. "Survival through force. That is what you value." "No," the officer replied evenly. "Survival through understanding our environment and using what we have to its fullest potential. Force is just one tool in our arsenal. Ingenuity is another." One of the alien scientists, still shaken, spoke up. "And what of the future? Will you cling to such relics when more advanced technologies become available?" The officer's eyes narrowed slightly. "We don't cling to the past. We learn from it. Our history is a record of mistakes, victories, and lessons. Every invention, every weapon, every strategy we've developed has a purpose. Even if that purpose is just to remind us of where we came from." The general stepped closer, his imposing frame towering over the human officer. "Your confidence borders on arrogance. Tell me, if you're so capable, why has humanity not ascended to the heights of other species? Why are you still confined to this single world?" The officer didn't waver. "Because we've spent our time building a foundation, not chasing illusions of power. The galaxy values immediate progress, but we value resilience. And when the time comes, that foundation will hold, no matter what forces test it. The general regarded him in silence for a long moment. Finally, he nodded, a gesture that was neither agreement nor dismissal but acknowledgement. Perhaps there is more to your species than we first believed. This isn't over, human. The Empire will remember today, as the alien delegation departed, their ships casting long shadows over the Earth once again. The humans stood together, their expressions resolute. They had shown the Empire something it wasn't prepared for. A species that thrived not through sheer technological dominance, but through adaptability, creativity, and an unyielding will to survive. The officer watched the ships disappear into the sky, his thoughts already turning to the future. Today was a demonstration, but it was also a warning. The galaxy might see humanity as primitive, but those who underestimated them often learned too late the cost of their arrogance. Let them remember, he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. Let them wonder what else we're capable of. The sound of the departing ships faded, leaving behind a quiet sense of victory. Earth was still considered a backwater planet on the galactic stage, but for the first time it wasn't dismissed. The humans returned to their duties, their work continuing as it always had, with determination and a readiness to face whatever challenges the universe brought next.